Yo, what is going on YouTube? R10 here, coming to you guys with another build video. This one is on arguably the best build in the game currently for PvP. I'm calling this one the Trig build. It's a meme because my friend Trig was the first person in the game to start using this build, and then our core group of friends have all branched out and made our own variants of the build. It's starting to catch on now in the Dark Zone, and I'm starting to see a lot more people using it, so I figured I'd just show you guys my variant of the build. I feel like the other variants that other people are making are wrong because they're stacking damage on the build when in reality you don't need to, because most of the damage comes from the talents that you're going to be using on this build. So I'm going to get really in depth with the breakdown, explain exactly why I use it the way I do, so you want to stick around for that. Anyone who's new to the channel, with my build videos I show you guys PvP first and the breakdown after, because what's the point of sitting through a breakdown of a build that does not perform in PvP? If someone is breaking down a build and then showing you clips where they kill one person and then cut to the next fight and kill one person, chances are the build actually doesn't perform, so you want to look out for that. But without further ado, I'm going to roll out the rest of these clips and then I'll get into the breakdown. What? He's taking no damage. I think I have shield bug right now. Yeah, so I can see just procced it sick. He's already dead though. I'm still getting shield bug. Yeah, just come. dead. They're all dead. I'm playing back. Alright boys, let's jump straight into this build video. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, this is in my opinion the best build in the game right now for PvP with this current meta. As you guys can see, I'm running 3 511, 1 Yaw, 1 RNK, and 1 Sokolov. So another little Frankenstein build, but first of all, let me get this out of the way now. This build, I did not come up with the idea for the base concept of the build. That is going to be credited to my friend Trig. I will leave a link to his Twitch channel down in the description below. He was the first person in the game ever using any sort of variant of this build. Then he passed it on to our core group of friends, which would be like Zurgens on YouTube. If you guys don't know who he is, I'll leave a link to his channel in the description as well. And then Cryptonimus, I'm sure a lot of you guys know who Cryptonimus is, but I will leave a link to his channel down below as well. And we all sort of made our own little variants of the build. And this is the one that I think works the best for solo PvP, and even in group PvP this build is exceptional. So I'm going to just start going over the pieces and why I rolled everything the way I did. But first, let me just go over the stat sheet so you guys can see the total base stats on the build, and then I'll go over each individual roll and why I rolled it the way I did. So if I go into my offensive stats right now, for only having 1 red, I still have 49%, so let's say 50% critical hit chance with 100% critical hit damage with 70 headshot damage. Now, these stats aren't really that important. What's important are the defensive stats, because if you look, I have 85.6 incoming repair and I have 88.8 hazard protection. So if some of my rules were a little better, I could have 90% incoming repair and 90% hazard protection with this build, which is the goal. So you're pretty much capped incoming repair, and you're pretty much immune to every single status effect in the game. So you are literally just a walking tank and you're healing yourself. Now, the fact that I have that much incoming repair is very vital for this build when you start looking at my weapon talents. So if I go back, as you guys can see, I have preservation on all 3 of my guns on this build. Now, if you guys watched my last build video, you already know that incoming repair stacks with preservation, it stacks with the firewall medkit, which I am using, and it also stacks with unbreakable, which I'm using. So every time someone breaks my armor and I get unbreakable, I get full armor back. Every time I kill someone with a vector, I heal a ridiculous amount because of preservation, which killing an enemy repairs 10% armor over 5 seconds, and if it's a headshot kill, it improves the repair by an additional 10%. So 20% for headshot kills, but I'm getting way more than 20% because I have 85% incoming repair on the build. Same thing goes for the M1A, which is way easier to get headshots with, I might add, and it's so easy to kill NPCs, especially while you're fighting players too. If you're in a group fight, or if you're soloing a couple of players and they're pushing you and you're next to a landmark and you kill some NPCs, you can heal up fast without wasting a medkit with preservation by using this M1A. Same thing goes for my pistol as well. So let's start going into the rolls. First of all, let's go over the 3-piece 511, why I'm using it. So 511 is a great gear set or brand set to use. The only flaw with 511 is the 1-piece, because it's health, and unfortunately at this current point in time, health in this game is completely useless. And if the 1-piece was anything else, it would literally probably be the best brand set in the game in my opinion. But unfortunately it has health as the 1-piece, so it's mediocre, mid-tier at best. But the 2-piece and the 3-piece are amazing and super vital for this build because they are incoming repairs and hazard protection. So if you look at the rolls on the mask, I have max armor, max hazard protection, max critical hit chance, and I have a mod with 18.6 incoming repair. So normally I don't look for critical hit chance and hazard protection rolls on gear. I look for critical hit damage and hazard protection, but the fact that this build still doesn't even have capped out critical hit chance, the critical hit chance is fine here. But if you have critical hit damage, don't worry about it, you could use that too. I prefer, as you can see with the rest of my gear pieces, I have crit damage hazard protection everywhere, not crit hit chance. But in this case, for this build, this mask works fine. If I go down to my chest piece, I have 155k armor with almost 11% critical hit damage and 9.1 hazard protection with an 18.4 incoming repair mod with unbreakable. Then if I go down to my holster, I have an RNK holster, which if you didn't know, the one piece gives me 15% incoming repair, which is why I'm using it, with max armor, 10.7 critical hit damage, 9.7 hazard protection. Then if I go on to the backpack, it is a 511 backpack with 153k armor, 10% hazard protection, 12% critical hit damage, and a mod with 18.6 incoming repairs. Now, I know you guys are looking at my stat sheet. You're seeing I have 50% critical hit chance, so I'm critting almost every other shot. I have 100 critical hit damage and 70 headshot damage, so it's not the best, but you know that I have 1.6 million armor since I'm running 5 blues, 1 red. So I have survivability and I have healing, but you guys are probably wondering how I'm killing players so fast with that low crit damage, and I only have 1 red, so I don't have that much weapon damage stacked. Well, it's from the backpack. This backpack talent is called Versatile, and if you don't know what it does, I'll read it to you. So basically, it amplifies my total weapon damage for 10 seconds when swapping between your primary and secondary weapons if they are different. So if you go down to the first category here, I get 35% to enemies within 15 meters for using a shotgun or an SMG. So all I have to do is swap weapons and I instantly get 35% weapon damage. That's basically like, that's more than running 2 reds, because you only get 15% as a max weapon damage roll on a red. So if you run 2 reds on the build, you're getting 30%. I'm getting 35 just for swapping weapons. So this talent is super strong right now and it's catching on. Like, people are starting to use it. And when I said people are using it wrong earlier in the video, it's because people are stacking this with reds and a bunch of weapon damage when in reality you don't need to. Because what's the point of having a super high damage versatile build if you're always dead? Because the time to kill in this game is so high. Why not run armor and still have ridiculous amounts of damage and be able to heal yourself and face tank multiple players, as opposed to, like, if I was using a glass version of this build with a lot of damage, sure, I'm gonna kill 1 player way faster, but if another player shoots me, I'm dead. If I'm fighting 2 players at one time, the damage from both of their bullets is going to kill me before I can probably even kill the first guy, which is why I don't think red builds have any place in the game right now with the current time to kill. So moving on, my gloves are Y'all gloves. The one piece give me 10% hazard protection, and I also have 170k armor with max hazard protection and 10.8 critical hit damage. And then the knee pads are Sokolov knee pads, obviously to get the 10% SMG damage. I have max weapon damage roll on here with 10.8 critical hit damage and max hazard protection. So if I'm going over the skills, I am using a jammer pulse or an EMP pulse, whatever you want to call it. I'm using this for players who use defender drones or hives. And also, if you guys didn't know, if I have any of my guns out on this current build, but for the matter, like if you use a gun with preservation and then you EMP a skill like a hive or a turret or something like that and it blows up, you get preservation as well. So I don't even need to necessarily kill someone with one of my guns. I can just EMP a skill and also start healing myself. So there's just tons of ways to keep your armor up high with this build and not have to waste your medkits. But then on top of that, if you do use a medkit, with already how broken and strong the firewall medkit is, with the amount of incoming repair I have, it's just out of this world. So this build has everything. It has utility, it has damage, survivability. You can play close range, you can play long range, because I'm using an M1A as a secondary. You guys don't have to use the M1A. You could use a shotgun here and get the most out of versatile, because like I said, you get 35 weapon damage for SMGs and shotgun, so you could run SMG shotgun. But because SMGs do have a big damage drop off at range, I decided to use the M1A because it's just that much easier to keep players off you. And like I said, you can kill NPCs faster with an M1A and get preservation faster that way. So that's why I'm using that. And then my other skill is the firewall shield. And this is hands down to get the most damage out of this build. This shield is super crucial because if you guys didn't know, the striker shield boosts the damage of the user and all allies, so your teammates too, if they're behind you, based on the number of enemies in front of you. So if you're 1v3 and 1v4ing and there's 4 players in front of you trying to shoot you and you pull out the shield, you're gonna insta-melt the first guy.
because you're getting bonus damage per player in front of you, and your teammates also get it too, so you're helping your team out as long as you jump in front and you start tanking the damage. And on top of that, your shield's not going to be super squishy either because you're stacking blues on this build, not reds. So if you guys didn't know, the more blues you have, the more health your shield gets, so your shield won't instantly break. So like I said, guys, this, in my opinion, is the best way to run this build right now. It is the best build in the game for PvP. Take my word for it. Try it out. Let me know what you guys think. Leave me a comment down below letting me know how the build went for you guys, and I will catch you on my next video.